that helicopter landing as it came in, obviously with that one patient, the gunshot victim that we were told about here at Grady Memorial Hospital. Lots of people wondering why shootings like this are still happening. We've had so many people to stop us and ask us today, are you here in connection to that shooting that happened in Winder at Apalachee High School? And we have to break the news to them that, yes, that is why we are here. Keep in mind, Apalachee High School, some 45 miles away, at least an hour drive. That's one of the reasons that that critically injured person was airlifted here this morning and has been treated here at Grady Hospital. We continue to ask officials here a lot of questions about that patient, questions that they say they are not willing to answer, like the sex of the patient or how the patient is doing. Lots of people walking by telling us that they are praying for this situation. Also, Tom, as you said, I did see two GBI investigators dash into Grady Memorial Hospital this afternoon. They arrived about 1 o'clock. Presumably doing some kind of work inside. I speculated that they were trying to gather some kind of information. They were here 2 hours, left the scene about 3 o'clock, and we have been looking for additional law enforcement since that time, as well as family members of the patient who is here. We continue to monitor this situation and will have any updates as they become available. Live from Grady Memorial Hospital, Angelique Proctor, Fox 5
Angelique, real
News.
quick before we let you go, and you've been at that hospital so many times in the aftermath of something like this. Just talk to us, if you will, for a second about the readiness and preparedness. They run through their own drills there at a trauma unit like Grady to be able to receive patients in circumstances like this.
Absolutely. The moment that they hear that there has been a shooting, there are several things that immediately go into play at a level 1 trauma center like this. Grady, of course, being the premier level 1 trauma center in the state. They are ready and capable of handling particularly gunshot victims. I have been told by Grady staff over and over again, if you are critically shot, this is where you want to be treated. And of course, lots of people praying for the person who is up there now from Winder, Georgia.
Angelique, is there any indication from the hospital that they may be coming out and giving an update on the patient that they're treating there? That's not unusual for them to also do that.
It is not unusual, Christine, and I talked with the hospital official. She came out and indicated there would be no news conference about the condition of this one patient. She made that very clear because once we heard there were 9 people injured, we immediately thought, could a second one be here at Grady Memorial Hospital? So I circled back around with her and she said, no, we just have the one patient and we will not be discussing that patient's condition or doing any kind of news conferences. But of course, this is a fluid situation. Things could change at any moment. We continue to remain here and monitor this situation.
All right, folks there, no doubt wanting probably to defer to officials. Angelique, thank you at this news conference that we're expecting any moment now. You saw the cameras assembled, waiting for them to come out to give us the latest on exactly what happened. We're expecting that news conference to start any second now. And of course, when it does, we'll take you to it live.
We will hopefully get the nuts and bolts of what took place this morning at Apalachee High School. There's still such a huge police presence there as we're watching the investigation unfold with many of the police vans. And we're seeing officials going in and out of the school still. So I'm curious to see how much of the nuts and bolts at this point Barrow County sheriffs will give us when that news conference starts, but they are cameras are in position to take that live when that happens.
And what, if any, information has changed? I mean, we know now the latest here as you watch officials approach the cameras there to give us the latest. What has changed? We know at least 4 dead. 9 taken to area hospitals with severe injuries. Judd Smith, the sheriff, will no doubt lead this news conference up there. But A lot of long faces, as you can imagine. This has been an exhausting day for officials as they've worked to not only get all of the students out of that building, but now to begin the investigation into what happened, who the shooter is, why that person decided to enter this school and open fire. And of course, the forensics investigation, the crime scene investigation, if you will, as to what happened in the aftermath.
And let's go ahead and as we zoom in, listen into, do we have that audio ready? Okay, let's go ahead and listen.
We wanted to come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the events that have taken place here today and what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Barrow County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern, or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers here at the school. The priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder and he will be tried as an adult and handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning we talked with you, and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the sheriff's office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation. Again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. That can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff and let you just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted that will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today. Regardless of where they were in the school, this has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Bexar County Sheriff Judge Smith. Thank you.
Director, would you spell your name, please?
H-O-S-E-Y.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judge Smith of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails. I don't know why it happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today. I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon. I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week as we cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you, we support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, you're saying hate will not prevail in this community. Are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
And shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me, it's hateful.
Sheriff, can you talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter? Can you describe that to us? How did it go down? What exactly happened for us?
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school, and was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it and how he got it in the school.
Has he been in touch at all with his parents or his family to learn more about what led up to these moments?
We have.
Any information you can share?
No.
What kind of weapon was
It
it?
seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir, I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
Sheriff, is the shooter speaking with the law enforcement now?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking? Is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
Sheriff,
How
he said why?
does that help the sheriff?
It is helping our investigation.
Sheriff,
reports of threatening calls perhaps made to the school prior to the shooting. Is that accurate?
None that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals deceased and was one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point. No.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm going to take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victims?
None that I'm aware of.
Was the shooter a student here at the school?
I know that you have a lot of questions about the student and that we mentioned that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation, that we're looking into every aspect of that individual, his connection here at the school. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Can you tell us how many rounds were fired? Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student, yes.
When can we expect the
We do not know how many rounds.
Director, has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you, we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here in the next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we will be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the on x.com.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, much anticipated news conference just ending here with multiple agencies coming to the microphone and releasing some key pieces of information that the public has been looking for. They have identified the shooter as 14-year-old Colt Gray, who is a student at Apalachee High School. And they also reported that the 4 killed were 2 students and 2 teachers. And the 9 injured had some gunshot wound in some capacity.
The GBI speaking about what happened in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, that the 911 calls came in at 10:20 this morning, that school resource officers were on the campus and engaged Colt Gray, the 14-year-old who police say opened fire, and that police responded really within a few minutes of the gunfire opening. Again, 4 dead, 2 students and 2 teachers, 9 others injured, all of them in area hospitals. And according to investigators, we just heard that there's still they didn't have a lot of answers to so many of the questions because they're still gathering so much information as to the whys of all of this. Of course, you can't get into the head of somebody who does something like this, but they will have a lot of questions for Colt Gray, the 14-year-old who they say did all of this. They say they were very close to it being an officer-involved shooting. That means an officer neutralizing, taking down the 14-year-old suspect, but he dropped his weapon and then dropped to the floor before they took him into custody.
And you heard a very emotional sheriff, the Barrow County Sheriff, Judd Smith, very emotional because, as we have been reporting throughout the hours, this is a small-knit community where everyone knows everyone, and he communicated his kids was part of this school system. He went to school there. He said, I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career of the pure evil that happened today. And he emphasized multiple times and insists that love will prevail over this.
Yeah, the investigation is still going on, and they will provide another update, they said, in just a few hours to monitor their X page where they're going to put out the very latest. Our team of reporters has been standing by all afternoon long on campus talking to parents and students alike. We're going to speak to them to get the very latest. But as you heard from authorities, this whole thing happening fast and furious, beginning at 10:20 this morning when those first 911 calls came in, treating those 9 victims, and then beginning the investigation as to the 4 who were deceased, whose identities we still don't know who they are.
We don't know at this moment. And it's important to also note the superintendent of Barrow County Schools saying that schools will remain closed for the remainder of the week, and that they are fully cooperating with authorities, as we saw authorities still in and out of the building of the high school as they continue their forensic investigation of what happened today, and that grief counselors will be available to students and staff as they get through the next coming days and weeks.
I want to get out to our reporters. I don't know if they're available, beginning with Eric Perry, who's standing by in front of the high school. Eric, not sure if you were able to listen into that news conference with us, officials there briefing the media as to what happened, giving us some chilling details about the moments after that gunfire first rang out this morning.
Yeah, Tom, Christine, I was able to listen in, but I was also watching as well, because for the first time, I saw teachers, faculty, and staff leaving. Of course, they did not want to make any comments on camera, but they were emotional. We talked earlier about how, you know, many of the students and the parents we talked with, you didn't see them in tears or crying on camera like that. But the teachers really, on their faces, they were emotional. You can tell that they knew. Now we know that 2 teachers, 2 students, I'm sure their colleagues, they might have been in their classrooms, but we saw a lot of that. Here's what we're seeing outside of this as well. So that was where the news conference was taking place further down, but you can still see a large presence up through there. And Michael Moore, if you can pan to the right, I'm not sure, do you see where the GBI is, those trucks up there? You can see the very top of it. They have tents set up right through there as well. I also saw what might have been a body transport, not sure, but it had a police escort. I've been on many scenes, and a dark colored, the type of van that it was. We saw it being escorted out from here as well. This road here in front of the school, parents have told me that it has opened back up in some sort of capacity. At one point earlier, we saw a lot of cars here. I want to also take you into just some of those students, if we have the sound ready, if we could play from Caitlin. We talked with her live on air. Of course, you saw the officials, but we want to make sure that you hear from the students. This girl was inside and said that that suspect who you heard, 14 years old, was one of her classmates. She was inside while that suspect was trying to get inside of the door. I want to be able to let you hear what we heard from her earlier, if we can.
Well, I was sitting in my classroom, and he came up to my door, or the door to our classroom. Classmate got up. She went to open the door, but she didn't, because she saw that he had a gun. She announced it. As soon as she announced it, he started firing. We all went into the corner. He went to the other classroom next to ours, and I'm pretty sure I heard like 6 to 8 gunshots. And then I'm pretty sure he moved on to another hall because I heard more gunshots.
I was in class around like 10:30, and I heard 4 gunshots, and we all just like stood there, looked at each other, and our other healthcare teacher came in and told us to run to the closet or bathroom to hide.
And she also went on to say that once police finally got there, they were in that bathroom and in the closet, she said, for about 15 to 20 minutes before they felt safe and heard police and law enforcement escort them. They said that they had to walk like this outside to that football field there with their hands raised. She said at some point from the back of that back of the classroom or the back of the school, they had to run for a little bit till they got to safety or where they felt safe as well. We talked to parents. We saw tents up over that football stadium and over the football field. Grief counselors were there as well, but also law enforcement had tents up as hundreds of witnesses in this chaotic incident and unfortunate incident. They were interviewing all of them, going over, getting their statements if they heard or saw anything. But that's just the gravity and really the healing just starting for this community here. We saw people handing out water. Someone came by on the back of a truck, handed us Gatorade as they're just going back and forth, doing what they can in such an unfortunate situation. We've seen a community rallying together. Tom, Christine?
Yeah, the response from the community a lot of times in situations like this, what can I do to help? And we're seeing some of that humanity today as well. Eric, thanks. It's important to note, Eric talked about some of this eyewitness accounts. Authorities are encouraging the public, students, staff, anybody who witnessed anything in this incident to call their tip line. It's 1-800-597-TIPS. You never know, the smallest of pieces of information that can help them
can go a long way.
Piece this all together.
Yeah, and certainly that community of Winder will be coming together in the hours, days, and weeks to come. Brittany Edney standing by live outside the high school. Brittany, you've been contextualizing so much of this for us from people that you've been speaking with and parents, students alike. And in the wake of this news conference, we just now have so much more information about what happened inside those hallways this morning.
Yeah, and as you're sharing these details with our viewers, as far as these updates, we're learning a lot more about what happened. I do want to take a moment, though, and point out something that you may not be able to feel through the screen, but we were able to witness here in person at the press conference, and that is the emotions that were coming through from Sheriff Judd Smith. I'd say it took about 3 to 5 seconds for him to kind of get himself ready. You know, he started to speak, and then there was just a lot of emotion in the throat. You could hear it, you could feel it. It took about 5 seconds to kind of get himself ready and then start speaking once again. You heard his how he is born and raised here. His kids went to school here, so did he. And you know, one of the quotes he said was, "Hate will not prevail in this county." He described, as he says, his heart hurts for all the students and for this school. Now, when it comes to the students, I want to show you this map that we received from one of them a little while ago. It shows some of the areas that we have gotten firsthand accounts from various students at the school regarding the locations of the shooting. If you take a look at that map, in your bottom left-hand corner, that's where you're going to see the large gymnasium. And then if you look towards the right top part of your screen, you're going to see several different hallways kind of branching out. You want to look for J hallway. That is where we have been told from several students that the shooting, at least one part of the shooting took place, and that's where a lot of the 9th graders congregate. You know, the youngest classmates of the school is in that J hallway area. The other thing, you know, of course, that we have been learning is 2 teachers and 2 students were killed. We have heard from students who described, you know, witnessing a math teacher getting shot, seeing his body or him lay on the hallway floor, laying in a pile of blood. It was very traumatic for them. It was a lot for them to see and experience. So we're getting more confirmation, at least at this point, from officials that's starting to kind of line up with this testimony that we've been receiving from the past few hours from students themselves. Now, one thing we did hear from 2 students students, I believe they were both sophomores, is that when they were exiting the hallway, they not only saw a body, of course, and blood throughout that area, but also a weapon. Now, if you listen to the sheriff, Sheriff Judge Smith just said when he was addressing the press that they do not yet know what the weapon is. So there's no confirmation or denial about if there was an AK in the hallway, but that's what we did hear from two sophomores. So we're still waiting to hear from law enforcement regarding what kind of weapon was used. But at this point, they're really just not saying. I think the exact phrasing from him was they do not know at this point. So that's the word from law enforcement regarding the weapon in this shooting. Again, school's going to be closed for the remainder of the week. And one thing, you guys, that we've been talking about in the past hour or so is really just the grief counseling and support that this community is going to need. And we also heard from the school superintendent this afternoon. His name is Dallas Duff. He was saying how counselors are going to be available throughout the week for, he said, the community. So, of course, the students and teachers and parents. But, I mean, this is such a small-knit town. This is going to be a very hard-hitting tragedy for everyone involved. Now, the counseling will be available. But, again, as you just heard from him, there will be no school classes at any of the schools for the remainder of the week. Guys?
Yeah, Superintendent LaDuff actually just started with this district, so he's hitting the ground running pretty quickly here. Brittany, thanks. Brittany talked about the composure and the demeanor of so many of those students who came out. We didn't see the others who may have witnessed firsthand what happened and some of what their feelings might have been when they were walking out of the school grounds. We saw them walking out from Skyfox 5, from the stadium, through those tents where we understand that a lot of grief counselors were already assembled in the immediate aftermath of this, how they were coping and dealing with all of this.
And we're in such a see something, say something information age, which is probably why we're seeing some of these students who talk to us with so much ease tell us what they saw and what they heard as well. Want to mention again that we're seeing the community really come together in the immediate aftermath of this. We know there are going to be prayer vigils at churches around Winder this evening, so no surprise to hear the faith community wanting to have some sort of hand in helping the people in the community get past this troubling time.
Yeah, it's going to be a grieving process, one where the community is going to be relying on one another, and especially these students. She said, the student we spoke to earlier, that this campus is unusually tight-knit. They have their skirmishes now and again sometimes, but they are close as a student body, so they'll be no doubt relying on one another to get through the very, very difficult hours and days that are going to follow this tragedy and what happens in the aftermath of all of this. Again,
4 killed and 9 injured in this mass school shooting that happened at Apalachee High School this morning in Winder. We're going to continue our coverage here on Fox 5 News at 5. It starts in just a moment.
Fox 5 News at 5 starts right now.
Everybody in here? Y'all know everybody in here? Yes. Anybody hurt? No. All right, stay put, stay quiet, and come back here.
Terrified students hide in a dark classroom as police sweep Apalachee High School following a mass shooting in Winder, about 50 miles northeast of Atlanta. Authorities have confirmed 4 people died, 2 teachers and 2 students, and another 9 were wounded before the 14-year-old shooting suspect was taken into custody alive. Thousands of students were then evacuated, and they have now reunited with parents. And just moments ago, the Barrow County Sheriff shared the latest details in an emotional press conference.
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county.
This is a story we have been following continuously for you since 11 o'clock this morning.
Our team coverage continues tonight, talking with officials, witnesses, parents, and students about how this tragedy unfolded and what comes next. Let's begin with our Kevin Stewart, who was the first reporter for us there on the scene. Kevin, we just learned a lot of new details in that news conference.
Yeah, you did. You know, you never know what the day will bring you when you wake up in the morning. You can drill for something like this, and the students we've talked to said they have drilled for something like this, but you're still going to be completely shocked, completely hurt. And you heard that interview, that sound from the sheriff, deeply hurt about what's happening in the community. Most of the students, he confirmed much of what students and parents told us earlier today. This shooting took place around 10:30 this morning. Four people, two students and two teachers confirmed dead. 9 more people injured by the gunman have been taken to multiple hospitals across the region. We had a chance to talk to so many people. We talked to a young man who skipped school today to go to a college event. He rushed here to the scene and struggled to try to find his friend, his good classmate. We talked to a number of families scrambling to leave the scene, including a young man who sat down with the GBI to give his eyewitness account. He was a 10th grader, much like many of the people we talked to today. Take a listen.
Well, the cops came in after they had one of the shooters in custody. So they had us walking out with our hands up, and they were telling us to go to the left, to come out through actually these doors right here. And they told us to come back. And when I looked to my left side on the floor, I saw one of the shooters. And then like I would say 10 inches before that, there was a kid that was deceased. And then I had to exit to go to the field where everybody's at right now. So
You doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now, of course, some clarification there. There is only one shooter here. His name is Colt Gray. Only 14 years old, Colt Gray, 14 years old. When authorities raced here to the scene, they said when they showed up, he turned himself in immediately, and he has been talking to investigators as they try to figure out what would drive someone to do this. You heard the sheriff earlier refer to what happened here. It's pure evil. Reporting live in Winder, Kevin Stewart, Fox 5 News.
Kevin, thanks very much. We have some perspective. This is the first deadly K-12 shooting in Georgia since 1999 and the deadliest ever in this state. We're hearing from a number of students who were inside the school at the time of the shooting, some of whom witnessed the bloodshed.
Fox 5's Eric Perry joins us live. He's been standing by in front of the school, talking with students. Obviously a traumatic day for so many there. Eric.
Yeah, Courtney, Russ, I'll get to that in just a moment, but I saw someone walking down with this sign. I just want to show you really quick. This is Gretchen. Gretchen says that she was at home. She saw about it, she saw it, and she lives close. Just very briefly, very briefly, walk me through what made you these signs. It says our schools should not be cemeteries and protect my community, prevent another slaughter. Just very quickly, what brought you out here?
I really care deeply for my community, and I think that this is a really a tough time. I think our community really needs to band together and help support those families that are going through loss right now. I think that's a very important part of community.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. And we've been talking with parents. We've been talking with different students here. I want you to hear from one student, a couple of them. This is Caitlin. She says that the gunman was one of her classmates, knocked on their door, tried to get in. They wouldn't let them in. And then she heard gunshots and several gunshots. Take a listen to some of the students we caught up with.
I was sitting in my classroom, and he came up to my door, or the door to our classroom. Classmate got up. She went to open the door, but she didn't, because she saw that he had a gun. She announced it. As soon as she announced it, he started firing. We all went into the corner. He went to the other classroom next to ours, and I'm pretty sure I heard like 6 to 8 gunshots. And then I'm pretty sure he moved on to another hall because I heard more gunshots.
I was in class around like 10:30, and I heard 4 gunshots, and we all just like stood there, looked at each other, and our other healthcare teacher came in and told us to run to the closet or bathroom to hide.
Yeah, and that student says that they stood there for about 20-25 minutes in the bathrooms, in the closets, hiding like they're instructed to do with those drills until law enforcement came. She says they had to put their hands up and then go to that football field. And then we saw on the football field several tents there. Parents and students tell me there were grief counselors that were made available, many of them in shock, many of them were crying, but also there were law enforcement there as well getting statements. Many of the witnesses here, we're talking hundreds, maybe thousands of people who were here at the school who saw, heard something, and that's all going to that investigation there. Here on the scene, we're also seeing what looks like barricades being brought in. One just went over off the corner here. But again, a lot of emotions, a lot of parents, and a lot of police activities. And also, we also saw just before you came to us what looked like another body being taken from the scene with the police escort here. But Russ, Courtney, a lot of emotions. We've seen it all since we've been out here for hours. Many parents, many students, grateful, but really just really in shock. You can see it on their face. They're not comprehending really the magnitude of what happened, and that 2 teachers, 2 students, and 9 other people were injured by gunfire here at this school.
Yeah, how could it be otherwise but to be in shock? It's just so heartbreaking. Eric Perry, thank you so much. And we have more accounts from students who were on campus at the time of this morning's shooting.
That's right. Let's get out to Fox 5's Brittany Edney, who has been there on campus, hearing some of the stories of what these students unfortunately had to go through today. Brittany.
Horrific scenes just coming out of this school campus this afternoon. I spoke to one student who described the lockdown process and also what it was like leaving the school. Let's start, though, hearing from his account when things first started to unfold.
Oh, so I just heard gunshots like going off. I had my AirPods on full blast. I was blasting Ken Carson, and I heard like gunshots go off, and I was like, "Oh crap!" My friend like pushed me to the ground. I thought it was fake until I heard like more gunshots and screaming. I was like, "Oh!" And then yeah, they pushed me off to the side, and they came in there told us to get our hands up. So we like got out, and we were walking out, and then we walked past, and like there was a room, and then there was a body, and there was like the gun laying on the ground with like the bullets and the blood.
And as you just heard from Eric Perry, we too have seen that vehicle that it looks like could be transporting a body. And a lot of the students today have described to our Fox 5 News team the stress and really just horrific scene of having to walk by some of these bodies of these victims. You know, we did receive a video that shows a victim laying on the ground, covered with a long, light, thin white sheet, blood, seeping through that sheet. We have chosen not to air it because it is just too graphic, but you have to imagine if it's too graphic for us to show on air, think about what it was like for all those students who are passing those victims in the hallway. Remember, we just learned that it was 2 teachers and 2 students who lost their lives in this shooting per law enforcement agencies. So these young kids are having to walk by those victims. I'm also hearing more about the location of where this all unfolded. From what students have described to us, it happened scenes. If you look over here behind me, this large brick building with 4 white columns that's kind of separating the doors, that's the gymnasium. I am told that that is where one part of the shooting took place and that a coach actually opened up the door. And when he did, that's when that coach was shot. I'm also told, if you take a look at this map that a student gave to us up on your screen here, that there is a hallway where a large part of this also happened. Now, looking at your screen, this map shows that gymnasium, the brick building we just showed you. They showed that in the lower left corner. But if you look in the upper right corner of your screen on that map, you're going to see like various hallways branching out. J Hall is where we are told that a lot of the scene happened in. And I'm also told from a sophomore that that's where a lot of the 9th graders were impacted. So when we were chatting with some of the older students of the school, they told me, you know what, it's the ninth graders that had to see the worst of it and experience the worst of it, because it really was located towards their area of the campus. So again, we're just hearing emotional accounts of what these young students had to experience inside classrooms where the shooting took place. We've shared with you stories in the hallway, and also one that really has just stuck by me all day. As teachers and staff and students realized that this was not a drill, this was in fact an active shooter situation. And as classrooms began that lockdown process, a sophomore explained to me that she saw her friend get yanked into one of the classrooms on a hall, and she just kind of talked about the importance of that. I mean, students were looking after their own. These young kids, think about how young these freshmen, sophomore age students are yanking other students into classroom to try to get them to safety. So, we're not only hearing about the different ways that staff members really stepped up to protect these young kids, but also how they were looking out for each other. Also, one last thing is, during this press conference with Sheriff Judd Smith, he did talk about how a school resource officer caught up with the suspect, 14-year-old, the shooting suspect. And when Judge Smith said that when the school resource officer engaged with the suspect, that the suspect very quickly surrendered, knew that the school resource officer was serious about engaging with his weapon, and then that's when that young shooter, that 14-year-old shooter, was taken into custody. So we're hearing a lot, not only about the students and the teachers, but also that school resource officer who was ultimately able to get that suspect, this 14-year-old, to surrender themselves to police. So again, a lot of different stories unfolding and starting to paint a clearer picture of what folded here at the school, guys.
Yeah, Brittany, that map you showed us makes it clear that 14-year-old Colt Gray traversed almost the entire school during this incident. He's the alleged shooter we're talking about.
Yeah, you make a really good point. We have talked about this earlier in the afternoon, just how widespread the area was, because if you look at J Hall all the way down to the gymnasium, it really was a large area that the shooter had to make their way down. Now, we did hear from law enforcement, I believe it was GBI and others during the press conference, who said that the response was quickly, but even then, even if you get officers there in minutes, it still can be a lot of area that shooters can cover. So a lot of the school was impacted, guys.
Brittany, thanks for your perspective. Again, we have confirmed 4 dead and 9 hurt, with the injured being taken to multiple area hospitals. We know 2 gunshot victims have been taken to Northeast Georgia Medical Center in Barrow County. Their injuries said to be not life-threatening.
We are also hearing additional patients came in with symptoms related to anxiety and panic attacks. Now, we have learned another gunshot victim was taken to Northeast Georgia Medical Center, Gainesville, which is a level 1 trauma center, also with non-life-threatening injuries. And one patient came into Northeast Georgia Medical Center, Brazelton, suffering from anxiety and panic attack.
We know another victim was taken by Life Flight helicopter to Grady Hospital in Atlanta. That's where Fox 5's Angelique Proctor is standing by.
And Angelique, it's a distance of about 50 miles away. What are you learning about the treatment that patient is undergoing there?
Well, hospital officials have said they cannot talk to us about this patient. They will not indicate the gender of the patient or how the patient is doing. But I can tell you, I heard Sheriff Smith say that this shooting happened at 10:20. I was standing here at Grady Hospital about an hour and 15 minutes later when I heard that chopper come through and land here at the hospital, presumably with that patient inside. And they have said that that was, in fact, a gunshot wound that the patient experienced. I also talked to hospital employees who told me they saw that chopper come in, and they describe it as coming in very, very swiftly and not normally circling around like they do and moving at a slow speed, but that there seemed to have been clearly some urgency there. Then about 1 o'clock this afternoon, we saw GBI agents rushing into the hospital here. 2 agents came in. They only confirmed with us that they were part of the Apalachee shooting investigation. They would not speak specifically about what they were doing here, but they came into the hospital. They were here about 2 hours and left at 3 o'clock. We continue to monitor this situation to ask hospital officials if they will be speaking with us or having any type of news conference. At this point, they have said they do not plan to do that, but we continue to monitor this situation and we'll let you know if anything changes. Reporting live at Grady Memorial Hospital, Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
Angelique, thanks. This is still a breaking story and will be for days, and we will continue to follow it through the evening. Fox 5 Atlanta will update you on air, online, and on our news app as we get more information through the night. You can also learn more about the victims, the shooter, and how everything unfolded this morning. And make sure to turn on push notifications so you don't miss any updates.
Still ahead as we continue here on Fox 5 News at 5. Both presidential candidates have since reacted to the shooting at Apalachee High School. We'll share what each said and how it's now affecting the campaign for the White House.
And we are looking at very comfortable temperatures around the region thanks to that east wind. Well, things will start changing as we march ourselves toward the end of the week. In fact, we're going to get some wet weather in here by the end of the week. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. Below the average here as we roll on into the first full week of September. Right now, just lots of sunshine across the region. 83 is our current temperature right now.